Rogers TV.
Are you a content creator looking to expand your audience and make your voice heard in your community? Rogers TV wants to provide you with a platform to share your hobbies, interests, and stories for free. Visit us to find out more.
So I introduced myself in my traditional language, the Wolastoqey Ottawawagan. So my name is Spotted Turtle. So I come here today with a message of hope and connection. So what I'm going to get you all to do is I'm going to get you all to stand up, please. So I want you to take your right hand and put it in front of your face like this, and take it over your left shoulder and say, "Good job." So I'm also going to teach you a Wolastoqey word. So the word is Gizzy Bem Tol Teepin. So I need you to hyphen it out. Gizzy Bem Tol Teepin. Gizzy Bem Tol Teepin. So you know what that word means. David Kuhn knows what it means. It means good luck at bingo tonight. So actually it means let's work together. So I think that's a very important message here today. Let's continue to work together. So I'm also going to here to teach you a song. Nobody told you that, did they? So I'm going to sing the song, and I want you all to sing it with me if you feel like doing so. Thank you. So it goes like this. I can sing that song 4 times. I'm going to do it with the drum. So just follow my lead. Okay, all together, we're going to say "Tahoe" on a count of 3. Ready? Nice and loud. 1, 2, 3. Tahoe. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
So, good morning, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Durnford, and I'm a senior associate with Porter O'Brien Agency right here in Fredericton. And I'm honored to offer a welcome to all of you this morning on behalf of our firm, our partners, and my colleagues. A few of them are here today. Porter O'Brien's thrilled to be a sponsor of events like this with the Chamber for a myriad of reasons. We offer services to our clients in in public affairs, government affairs, as well as management consulting. So any opportunity to support transparency and collaboration with our elected officials is a win for all of us, not just our agency, but as Dave mentioned earlier, for our community as a whole. We carefully cultivate relationships of trust with not just our clients, but also with our community and our colleagues and business partners like the Chamber. And events like this are a giant step in that direction. So thank you to the Chamber for organizing this event and continuing to be one of our most valued partners in business. And a special thank you to Ms. Atwin for taking the time today to share with us and to be open and transparent and continue to cultivate those relationships of trust and collaboration. Thank you.
I'm going to keep my remarks really short and try to talk about the things that you guys need to know about the airport. So the first thing I want to talk about is air service, and the second thing I want to talk about is accessibility. So air service, I know you've all noticed, it looks a little different now than it used to. Important for you to know that things are going really well at the airport. So we're seeing larger planes, less frequency, so it can kind of look like we don't have as much service, and that's not actually the case, and it's important that you, our community, know that. New hubs, so if you're flying Air Canada, check out Montreal. They're building that up as a hub. I know we're all used to flying through Toronto, but they are expanding, so they've got 2 hubs. I know everybody wants the morning Toronto flight back. We are talking to them about that, I promise. We're on it. And then WestJet, of course, started this year and brought, again, bigger planes and a new destination, right? So we had the service to Calgary. Went really, really well. Next summer's schedule will be finalized November 18th, which I think is Monday. So I'm hearing good things. Stay tuned. And Porter as well, if you're connecting, check out Ottawa as a hub through Porter, because they now have jets and they're flying to new places that you might not traditionally think of them flying to. Okay, that's it for air service. Accessibility. Look, big focus, as it should be. It's a regulatory requirement for us, but it's also just the right thing to do. And so it's important that our community knows that we are working with community organizations like Ability New Brunswick to make sure that we're putting the right things in at the right places and making sure that the voice of people who have disabilities is centered in those conversations. Our most recent thing that I would like you to know about is the Hidden Disability Sunflower Lanyard Program. Okay, that's really long. It's a lanyard, right? Goes around your neck. And anybody who has an invisible disability can go to the commissionaires, get one of those, and what that does is it tells all the staff in the airport that this is a person who might need a little extra support, a little extra time, but it's somebody that, you might not know that by looking at them. So please tell your family and friends. I mean, look, we're talking about autism, dementia, Alzheimer's, like all sorts of things that can mean that people need just a little bit of extra time and support. Okay, that's it. Now I get to talk about Jenica Atwin, our Member of Parliament. So I think we all know that she is the Member of Parliament for Fredericton Oromocto, and she was first elected in 2019, but I did not realize that she was the first woman to hold that title. So, yeah, exactly. Feel free to cheer for that. Yes. And again, I think many of us know that she had a career as a teacher before moving into politics. In addition to being our Member of Parliament, she also holds several positions within the federal government. Now she's the Parliamentary Secretary, that was also on my list. Member of the Standing Joint Committee on the Scrutiny of Regulations. And she is a member of the Standing Joint Committee on the Library of Parliament. And most importantly, she's our voice in Ottawa, and taking our concerns and our needs to our federal partners, and that is what we're here to talk about today. So please come to the stage. Please applaud for Jenica Atwin.
Of course, I want to thank you all for your attendance this morning as well, for all of our incredible sponsors. Thank you for supporting this. This engagement piece, again, that collaboration is essential, and your work is fundamental in that. And I'm here to share with you, of course, my experience as your Member of Parliament, this wild journey that I've been on for the last 5 years, the work that I do on your behalf, and the hope that I have for this great country of ours, and especially my gratitude for the people of this incredible community. The Fredericton Chamber of Commerce has always been a champion for the business community, and I truly look forward to these events. Thank you all for your hard work, and hats off to you, Morgan, in particular, for your banner year as CEO, especially your social media skills. I just have to say that, they rock. Maybe you can come help out my team a little bit. I know we always need that help. I also want to give a special shout out to Senator Krista Ross, who, as you know, emerged from this very important organization and has since joined me in Ottawa representing this amazing community. I am lucky to have such a partner in this work, and I hope New Brunswickers feel well represented in Ottawa. I often reflect on the immense honor I have in representing this beautiful riding, and I am forever grateful to have the opportunity to stand in the House of Commons of Canada with 337 other folks advocating for the communities that shaped me. Every part of me is invested in the success and prosperity of this place and our people. This is my home. I was born at the Deck. I grew up playing road hockey in Burton, fishing in French Lake, exploring nature in New Maryland, playing hockey in Ormocto, softball in Marysville, attending church in Lincoln. I attended UNB to study history, English, and political science, and then went on to complete my master's in education. I worked for Willamuggadog First Nation at Ormocto High School and Bilich at Fredericton High School. I live my life and I raise my children here, and it's where I hope to grow old. My commitment to this community is rooted in my family. That's what motivated me to run for office and what drives me to keep doing this work every single day. Our capital city region is a vibrant and dynamic community and continues to rise to the occasion as we grow and change. Change can be challenging. It pushes us in directions we never thought possible. It can bring us to the brink and back again. And it's the lessons you take from these times and the response that you offer that defines us. Fredericton leads with compassion, courage, and collaboration. And with this as our mantra, we have continued to thrive despite the high tides and tribulations. The first key insight I want to share with you all this morning is simply this: I'm right there with you. I see you, I feel you, and we're walking this road together. I've been fortunate enough to do this work alongside inspiring individuals who love this province and this vast community as much as I do. I want to give a special shout out this morning to Mayor Kate Rogers and the Fredericton City Council. Their focus on housing, safety, supports for newcomers, a commitment to honoring Indigenous peoples, as well as a sustainable local economy has helped our citizens feel heard and supported through these times of growth and transformation. Her worship, Mayor Rogers, leads with her heart and her head, and I am incredibly proud to know her. I have a special appreciation for Mayor. My father, Bob Powell, is the Mayor of Ormocto, and his dedication to our town has always been something that I aspire to. Many of the values I carry with me to Ottawa were instilled in me by my dad and his passion for people. Politics must be a labor of love, or you are in the wrong business. I also want to give a shout out to New Maryland and Hanwell councils, Mayor Judy Wilson-Shee, Mayor Dave Morrison, also the Mayor of Acadia. Thanks for being here too. My municipal colleagues have become true friends, and it has been so nourishing to learn from leaders who take such pride in connecting with residents, ensuring community safety, and encouraging spirit. Thank you all for what you do. I know that you give up so much of your time for the sake of others, and indeed, I would also like to acknowledge and give thanks to all the civil servants who work so hard to make all of this happen. Our town and village CAOs, administration, planning, the works. I'm so appreciative for everything that you do. As your federal representative, it is always my goal for municipalities to not only feel supported, but to ensure they have the resources they need to serve their citizens. Since 2019, we've been able to partner on so many important initiatives, and I will continue to be there to do all I can to advocate for federal investments into the local governments who know their municipalities best. I am, of course, also thrilled to offer my congratulations to the newly elected members of the New Brunswick Provincial Legislature, and especially our new Premier, Susan Holt. It is a privilege to congratulate New Brunswick's first woman Premier, and I need to say that again, a first woman Premier. So this historic milestone is not only a significant personal achievement for Premier Holt, but a monumental step forward for all New Brunswickers, indeed all women and girls in our province. As I said in the House of Commons, it is a new dawn in New Brunswick, and I look forward to partnering with this government on real solutions that New Brunswickers need, and we need them. In the wake of last week's presidential election, I want to address the concerns I've been hearing from so many. There is so much uncertainty about what lies ahead, and many Canadians are worried about our relationship with our biggest trading partner. Canadian businesses are worried about the President's plans for sweeping tariffs, as well as his commitment to renegotiate the United States-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. Your federal government is not taking this risk lightly. We know that Canadian businesses, and especially the softwood lumber sector, have paid more than $10 billion in U.S. duties for production originating from Canadian sawmills since the changes in trade policy President Trump enacted in 2017. This has driven production out of Canada and into the United States, where US sawmills, including those owned by Canada-based companies, are exempt from the lumber duties. Preventing further market disruptions and loss of production will require a Team Canada diplomatic approach. The Prime Minister has already acted to reestablish the Cabinet Committee on Canada-US Relations, and our government has put an increased focus on protecting Canadian businesses while preserving that crucial partnership between our two nations. What's good for the United States is good for Canada. In the days and weeks ahead, as the President-elect continues to shape his administration, so too will our government adapt and roll up our sleeves. In other words, we've got this. Speaking about rolling up our sleeves, when I decided to run for office, I wanted to show the people of Fredericton the kind of representation that you deserve. I wanted to offer openness, responsiveness, but most importantly, action. As your federal representative, and with the hard work of my amazing team and staff, I am so proud to report that I voted 1,035 times on legislation in the House of Commons on your behalf. I've spoken in the House of Commons chamber 450 times. I've spoken in parliamentary committee meetings 1,038 times. I've had more than 1,017 meetings with local constituents. I've knocked on 11,766 doors since the last election, so not during the RIP period. Always important to connect to your electorate. I've resolved over 3,038 constituency casework files, so this could be IRCC, CRA, Service Canada, Veterans Affairs. Advocated for and successfully attracted and announced just over $1 billion in federal investments into services, municipalities, organizations, and businesses in this riding. I truly want to thank my wonderful staff, because there's no way that I could do this work alone. Kate, who's here, hi Kate. Rachel, Camille, Duncan, Keely, Miriam, Layla, our many incredible interns. If you contact our office, I'm sure you'll have a great experience, and that is always our goal. My constituency office is located at 154 Main Street on the vibrant and beautiful north side of Fredericton. North side. Many folks forget, though, that the constituency work is where our most fundamental work happens, where my dedicated team goes to bat for those in need, fighting for benefits, navigating complicated government systems, correcting bureaucratic errors, reuniting families, and sometimes even saving lives. My team members go above and beyond, and they do it with a smile. The best feedback to receive is when someone has been well served and felt respected after they interacted with my office. Immigration comprises by far the majority of our constituency work that comes our way. Each case is unique and complicated. Our current system allows us 1 hour per appointment with IRCC to go through details and advocate up the chain. This is an improvement from the previous limit of 5 cases per day, just so you can understand kind of the challenges sometimes we have. Many of you have inquired with us about cases or policy, and we've been active in roundtables and briefings to help shape the changes we require to ensure a more efficient and streamlined process. As you're well aware, the Government of Canada implemented significant immigration policy changes so far in 2024, targeting both temporary residents and long-term immigrants to address housing pressures and meet economic needs. The impacts of these changes often feel different for us here in the Atlantic, and we have yet to see the full effect. I want to reiterate to all here today that we will work together through these changes, and that your voices are critical in informing the minister and pushing for adjustments that will reflect our needs. And I look forward to that work ahead. Please continue to reach out to my team for assistance and voice your concerns. Winding down from pandemic circumstances, Canada has capped international student permits and introduced stricter language requirements for the postgraduate work permits. By focusing on students with stronger language skills and higher qualifications, Canada aims to attract individuals more likely to contribute to the labor market in ways that align with our current workforce needs. The policy prioritizes graduates from bachelor's, master's, and doctoral programs who are deemed more adaptable to labor market needs. We also have the new Innovation Stream Work Permit, which aims to bring top global talent to Canada's tech sector, offering fast-tracked LMIA-exempt work permits for skilled professionals in high-deemed fields like engineering and computer science. We have to continue that incredible pipeline that we've had here in Fredericton. This program supports businesses by helping them compete in global tech markets. We also have the permanent residency pathways. We've got the Francophone immigration piece. Canada aims to increase Francophone immigration outside Quebec, supporting diversity and benefiting bilingual business environments across Canada, and I know Fredericton in particular is a leader in this field. These changes benefit Canadian businesses by aligning immigration with labor needs, reducing housing market strain, and prioritizing immigrants who are more likely to integrate successfully and contribute to the economy. These policies are part of a broader plan to admit up to 500,000 new permanent residents annually by 2026, with a substantial portion in economic categories to support workforce needs and economic growth.
I'm Gagweg. My name means everything.
Tom Longboats!
I am Wolf Clan, Onondaga Nation. I've run many different races. I've run to survive and to be free. I've run to win for honor.
His people might be lazy, but this one's damn fast.
My people respected our runners, people who carried important messages from village to village.
I need a guide to the next post. Dispatch carrier, sir. I can get you there.
God's sakes, man! Slow down! Who do you think I am, Tom Longboat?
No, sir. I am.
Running makes me feel alive. It's everything.
Tom Longboat was the first Indigenous person to win the Boston Marathon. He ran his way to international fame and became an inspiration to generations of athletes.
So it's a perfect segue because I'm switching into the economic kind of forecasting piece of this. And I really wanted to bring you kind of the analogy that our finance minister, our first female finance minister as well, Chrystia Freeland, has often explained to us over the last couple of years. It's no secret it's been a bit chaotic in Ottawa. It's been a bit turbulent. And so Chrystia has been explaining this kind of economic, picture for us in terms of a portage. And we're Canadian, we kind of know this analogy. So you've got your canoe. We can see this big, beautiful lake that's off in the distance. It's pristine. It's, clear waters, but we've got a long way to get there. So we've got this portage. It's heavy. We're sweaty. We're tripping over things. There's holes. There's bumps in the road. The mosquitoes and black flies are getting to us, but we're getting closer to the lake. So this has kind of been our conversation in our caucus rooms over the last couple of years, that, we've got to keep trudging through. And it seems that the lake is getting closer. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Facing elevated inflation, the Bank of Canada pursued an aggressive policy of interest rate hikes throughout 2022 and 2023 to curb spending and stabilize prices. That's some of that pain I was talking about, lifting up that heavy canoe. This affected business costs, especially in credit-heavy sectors like real estate and construction, but it also laid the groundwork for long-term stability. By reducing inflationary pressure, these measures aim to create a more predictable economic environment for businesses to operate efficiently and plan for growth. I know that planning piece has been particularly difficult over these last couple of years. In general, the government's efforts to balance growth with inflation control have been cautious, supporting both short-term inflation reduction and long-term economic stability through structural changes like green investments and labor market adjustments. We saw the Bank of Canada lower the rate in response to signs of easing inflation. Currently, the target for the overnight rate is 3.75%. These have been most welcome developments and good news for businesses, as well as a sign that the economic policies put in place by our government are working. Canada also continues to attract significant foreign direct investment, particularly in high-growth sectors like electric vehicle manufacturing, clean energy and technology, very important to me. Major automakers and tech companies have made substantial investments in Canada's green technology and EV battery manufacturing, bolstered by government incentives. Such investments are vital for economic growth, creating jobs, expanding local supply chains, and fostering innovation across industries. In alignment with our net zero goals, the Canadian government has introduced multiple tax incentives to promote clean energy, including credits for clean electricity, technology, and hydrogen production. Programs like the Canada Infrastructure Bank and Canada Growth Fund provide capital to support clean energy projects, particularly in renewable energy infrastructure and sustainable technology manufacturing. And these initiatives not only work to reduce emissions, but also offer business opportunities in emerging markets tied to green technology. Canada is also prioritizing advancements in artificial intelligence. I've had many conversations with really important researchers from our area about this particular sector. We have concerns where certainly the government is on top of that as well, but it really can open up a lot of efficiency and support businesses moving forward. So the 2024 budget allocates substantial funding to bolster Canada's AI ecosystem, providing resources for compute capacity, startup support, and skills training. These investments aim to help Canadian companies gain a competitive edge in AI-driven markets and increase productivity across sectors like agriculture, healthcare, and manufacturing. Overall, these policies contribute to a stronger, diversified economy with competitive advantages in sustainable industries and technology. For business owners, this environment offers growth prospects through green incentives, innovation funding, and a more stable economic landscape as inflation pressures ease. Now, there is good news. But no doubt it's been difficult for Canadians to see through tomorrow through today with the way the world has been going. So telling people that inflation is at 1.6% does not correlate directly to index happiness, being affordably housed, or food secure. It's also no surprise to anyone that a major concern I hear about from constituents is the state of housing, homelessness, mental health, and addictions. I live here too. I'm raising my children here. And I've witnessed the increased visibility of vulnerable people in our community. I've seen and felt and been personally impacted by the crime and victimization in our communities. I feel the despair and the anger and the hurt. I also see the work that's being done to address it. I have the privilege of connecting with each of the pieces that make up this multifaceted response. I have seen the destigmatization and expansion of mental health initiatives. I've seen record housing investments and policy changes and the deployment of a science-based crisis approach to the opioid issue and toxic drug supply. I've seen police officers, first responders, social workers, and healthcare providers jump into action and demonstrate a better way forward through collaboration and data sharing. There is so much learning and healing that has happened. But our communities, our cities, our human resources are understandably tired. I know for many in the business world, it's felt like one kick after another, and I've heard from many of you about these realities. These conversations are ongoing and evolving, and I want to thank everyone who has come to me with their insights and solutions. Supporting provinces and municipalities as we face down these difficulties is a top priority for me and the federal government. Over the past few years, Canada and New Brunswick have focused on reducing homelessness and addressing the mental health and addiction challenges that often exacerbate housing instability. In New Brunswick, programs like the Homeless Individuals and Families Information System and the By Names list have been implemented to track homelessness more accurately, aiming to address chronic homelessness by expanding shelter capacity and creating a housing first model. This approach prioritizes affordable housing solutions and mental health services to tackle the root causes, including addiction issues that often lead to homelessness. Yet, homelessness persists. With last year's estimates, over 1,100 unhoused people across the province, with 199 recorded homeless in Fredericton as of October 2023, with around 150 experiencing chronic homelessness. There are also approximately 200 individuals receiving opioid agonist therapy for addiction, and around 75 individuals receiving stimulant replacement therapy. It's important to note that around 2/3 of people receiving addictions treatment are housed. And of those who stay in treatment for 2 full years, 94% are housed. That is because, as all addictions experts agree, housing must be a first priority to ensure that people have the stability and security they need before tackling their addictions. That is why projects like the 12 Neighbors community are so critical to tackling the drug crisis. And shout out to Marcel Lebrun, we just love him so much. Through the National Housing Strategy and the Rapid Housing Initiative that Fredericton has been able to benefit from, Canada has increased investments to address housing affordability and homelessness more generally. The Rapid Housing Initiative provided $5 million in Fredericton. Additionally, the federal government launched the $4 billion Canada Housing Benefit, a monthly subsidy for low-income renters, with a one-time $500 top-up for 1.8 million struggling renters across Canada in 2022. These initiatives have had limited but positive impacts, with some new affordable units created, although demand continues to outstrip supply. And I also continue to challenge our housing ministry about the term affordable and really to use deeply affordable. In the coming years, I'm hopeful that the housing policies announced by the Susan Holt government as well, combined with support and collaboration at the federal and municipal levels, will have significant positive effects on the affordability of housing and rate of homelessness in our community. We all deserve to have a roof over our heads and a safe neighborhood to live and work in. Several initiatives in Fredericton have been funded to directly address reducing crime rates and enhancing local security. Notably, New Brunswick received a significant federal investment of $2.7 million through the Guns and Gang Violence Action Fund, which supports police services and community organizations in implementing evidence-based approaches to address gun and gang-related issues, which have unfortunately found their way to us. These funds help local authorities prevent, disrupt, and respond to crime effectively and focus on community education. The federal government allocated $2.4 million to fund the Youth Outreach Program, targeting at-risk youth through mentorship and skill building initiatives. And programs like these aim to reduce antisocial behaviors and encourage education and healthy life choices, thus reducing long-term crime involvement among youth in vulnerable communities. And these are, of course, downstream. We need to also address the immediate upfront issues that businesses are facing. Last summer, the City of Fredericton received almost $1 million as part of the federal government's Building Safer Communities Fund. Overall, these investments and strategic approaches reflect the government's commitment to bolstering public safety by tackling crime at its root and addressing systemic issues and providing resources to prevent crime before it escalates. We know that our municipal police forces are feeling the stress. We know they need that support. There have been investments and partnerships as well as legislative reforms aimed at responding to rising crime trends across Canada. And I want to address one piece of legislation in particular. There's been a lot of public discussion about Bill C-75, which was passed in 2019, entitled an act to amend the Criminal Code, the Youth Criminal Justice Act, and other acts to make consequential amendments. It is not the Catch and Release Act. To be clear, nothing in former Bill C-75 changed the law of bail, except that it made it harder for people who commit repeat intimate partner violence to get bail. If the bill were to be repealed today, it would impact those experiencing intimate partner violence, and it would not solve the issue of crime on our streets. The status of our bail regime is enshrined in Supreme Court case law, and Bill C-75 codified jurisprudence about the constitutional requirements of bail. The bill did not make it easier for someone to vandalize a business or to assault someone on the street. This bill did strengthen Canada's national response to intimate partner violence by defining intimate partner for criminal code purposes. It created a reverse onus provision for offenders, requiring bail court judges to consider prior convictions and allowing a higher maximum penalty in cases involving an offender who had prior intimate partner violence convictions, among other provisions. Many people are not aware that in December 2023, our government also passed Bill C-48, which is a bail reform bill, in response to all 13 provinces and territories who came together to call for these changes. C-48 responds to this call and goes further to keep our communities safe. It created a new reverse onus targeting repeat violent offenders involving weapons, added specific firearms offenses linked to organized crime to an existing reverse onus, strengthened existing reverse onus regimes addressing intimate partner violence, which we first introduced in Bill C-75, and requires courts to consider an accused's history of convictions for violence, as well as community safety and security concerns when making that bail decision. The law says that people who are deemed a risk to public safety or a flight risk should not be given bail. Provinces ensure police and prosecutors have the tools they need for effective monitoring and enforcement. Justices of the peace, who most often make bail decisions, are provincial appointees, and prosecutors are the ones who can initiate these reviews to challenge bail decisions. The good news is that we have a fantastic new partner in the provincial government, and we're going to work together. We're going to work at all levels of government. We're going to listen to our business community. We're going to listen to stakeholders, and we're going to solve this crisis together. I am more hopeful and optimistic than I've ever been, and so I really hope that you can feel that way too, and we can tackle this challenge head on. I will now switch to a different gear. I just wanted to make sure that we really address that. One of the things I'm most proud of over the last year is the work I've done as the Parliamentary Secretary to the Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services Canada, Minister Patty Hajdu. In this role, I've had the opportunity to meet with chiefs and Indigenous organizations from all over the country to discuss their policy concerns, their local initiatives, and their innovative solutions on a host of issues. I also had the great privilege to travel to British Columbia, Ontario, and throughout the Atlantic to meet with several Indigenous communities to discuss water projects, wildfire recovery, and emergency management. I also had the opportunity to participate in a number of trilateral negotiations between Indigenous governments, the federal government, and provincial and territorial counterparts on health transformation with a focus on honoring Joyce's principle and ending discrimination. This was one of the largest contributions I've been able to make through this position, and I will never forget this experience. Currently, I spend much of my time focused on Bill C-61, which is the First Nations Clean Water Act. This is incredibly important, and I know it's important to our community members as well, because when I knock on doors, this issue is raised to me time and time again. This historic legislation recognizes a human right to clean drinking water for the first time. It recognizes First Nations' inherent right to manage and control water systems in their territories. It protects source water and transboundary water systems from pollution. It ensures First Nations have the resources and funding they need to maintain and operate their water systems. It co-develops minimum standards for clean drinking water, and it lays the groundwork for a First Nations-led water institution to support communities' management and operation of their water systems. I've been involved in this legislation since it was being drafted in collaboration with Indigenous communities, and it currently is being studied in the Parliamentary Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs. And for any of you policy wonks out there, if you'd love to watch us on CPAC, it's quite interesting to go through the clause by clause. So we're trying to get this bill passed as quickly as possible to ensure all First Nations have access to clean drinking water and to restore source water rights to Indigenous peoples. Looking ahead, I'm incredibly proud of the work I've put in for the last 5 years as your federal representative. This job can be tough, and no matter how much you accomplish, the work is never done. But one day, I will look back on this experience knowing confidently that every single day, my team and I have given 110%, trying to respond to the needs of this community and support our constituents in any way that we can. As I look forward to the challenges and issues that are yet to come, I'm overwhelmed with the gratitude for the people in this community who have entrusted me to represent them. We've made real progress for our communities, and as we move forward, I'm grateful for your trust and support, which fuels my commitment to continue this important work. With unity and purpose, we can achieve even more in the years ahead. Thank you all for being a part of this wonderful journey. Let's continue building a brighter, stronger future for all. Will you win? Merci. Thank you.
They've reached the summit!
Back-to-back Stanley Cup victories.
Greatness. And a new legacy begins!
Absolutely amazing.
It has happened in Vegas.
Is not a destination.
And lightning has struck twice.
It is a continuous journey that never ends.
These are the moments you dream of. Stanley Cup champions!
Are you a content creator looking to expand your audience and make your voice heard in your community? Rogers TV wants to provide you with a platform to share your hobbies, interests, and stories for free. Visit us to find out more.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
These days at your local Legion, we're marching to the beat of a different drum. On a mission to support veterans, to have fun, and to welcome everyone to our ranks. You don't have to be a veteran to join the Legion. And as a member, you'll join thousands of others serving our veterans, our communities, and our country. Oh yeah, and our Member Perks program will save you thousands on shopping, dining, products, and services across the country. Join us at legion.ca.
We're going to move to the Q&A portion here now. I'm going to open up for audience questions in a minute, but as the holder of the mic, I'm going to take a couple for myself. Appreciate your extensive comments on public safety and Bill C-75. I know you had representatives at the business stakeholder meeting in this room last week, and so given that C-75 is being openly discussed by police departments in particular as an impediment to doing their jobs, and C-48 sounds like it's not geared towards those so-called nuisance crimes that a lot of businesses are dealing with, which are far from, they're much more than a nuisance for them. Yeah. What opportunities do you see to work more closely with municipal governments and police forces to give them tools to do their job?
I think the big piece is, again, ensuring that provinces have the resources they need to support municipal police forces, not just in human resources, but in additionally what they're going to need as tools as they're doing this work. I think, again, it's important to understand the Supreme Court case law that enshrines and protects our rights in this country, and that's where a lot of these, I think, conversations have led. And I think that, again, it's going to take conversations with our municipal leaders and those on the ground. I will be there to support as well. I've actually got a meeting with our police chief this week coming up. I try to be in regular contact so that they know that they not only have their own voice through their own police associations and their own advocacy, but that their members are listening to them and that we're having this conversation around the caucus room with our public safety minister as well. It's important to see that those two levels of government are also working closely together, our public safety federally and provincially. Again, it's also going to take our business community because you're the ones that are living this. You're seeing this day in and day out. I know that the repeat offenses, as you said, it's much more than a nuisance. But again, it's capacity in our remand centers. It's capacity in our court-appointed judges. It's resourcing all the way around. So whether that's funding from the federal government that's got to come down, or we can also look at those legislative reforms. But we have to be very specific because again, when it comes to Bill C-75. Repealing it is only that one piece about intimate partner violence. What it did was it codified existing case law that existed. And so I don't think that there's one silver bullet. I think that unfortunately, we want to find that. We want to see that one place that we can point to that will solve this crisis. But because it's so multifaceted, it's going to take more time. And just the other piece, again, is knowing that your government is hearing you and does care about this. And if there was that silver bullet solution, we would be implementing it. So it's going to take a lot of work moving forward.
Also want to ask about housing, another key issue across the country, and here's no different. Has the federal government learned lessons from the Housing Accelerator Fund and other recent funding that you can take with you to further initiatives working with the other two levels of government moving forward on housing funding?
I mean, when it comes to learning lessons, even just given the example of some of the immigration reforms that we've seen, the same thing's happening around the housing sector and our housing ministry. Minister Sean Fraser, again, being from the Atlantic, he understands also our unique circumstances here on the ground as well. And so absolutely tweaking things as we move along, working very closely with municipal partners. Even when the funding was first announced, we went back and forth quite a bit with Mayor and Council to make sure that it was going to fit what we actually needed it to do. Housing Accelerator is mostly about removing some of those bureaucratic barriers and accelerating permitting processes. That's one piece. The other piece is also incentivizing the private sector as well, ensuring that development has what they need, and also enshrining that piece around affordable, to ensure that it's not just about turning a profit. We certainly want to increase the stock in our community that hopefully will balance prices out, but we have to ensure that deeply affordable piece is there and then it's dispersed amongst the city so that everyone is treated with that dignity and respect that they deserve. So all of these pieces have really informed some of the changes we've seen to housing policy moving forward. But all parties now in the House are also talking about innovative ways to unlock housing, and so that's a great thing. It's never about who gets credit for what. We want everyone to have this as their top priority, and we're really starting to see that. And again, just a shout out to our city, because municipalities drive those changes. It's a lot easier for me to advocate for funding when we know we have a willing partner, and so that's been really helpful for me to do that work. So absolutely, as every day goes by, we're always willing to tweak and to make things and to tailor programs that are actually going to solve the problems that we're trying to solve. Otherwise, those investments aren't going very far. So it's your tax dollars at work. So I've been proud to see the housing policies that we release, but absolutely we need to tweak them because our smaller communities, for example, we're not Vancouver, we're not Toronto, we have very different realities here, and we've started to see the policies shift to really reflect that.
And how about federal properties, identifying those? We've talked about that a few times. There's still no Fredericton properties on the list as far as I know. Could you talk a little bit about that and give us an update on where that stands?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not a positive update. We have a few federal properties that we've looked into here in the Fredericton region for different projects and initiatives. We've got Canada Post was one. There's a CBC building. We've got the Downtown Service Canada. We've also got the Experimental Farm, which is federal property. And there's an arm's length Crown Corporation that their work is ensuring how that land gets used. We have heard promises about unlocking those federal lands across the country to potentially build more housing. The locations we have in the Fredericton riding specifically are not going to be suitable to those projects, unfortunately. We're still barking up as many trees as we can. We've been working with different entities and going to the board, seeing who can kind of give us that information. But so far, not good news on that front.
Open up the audience questions. Business Hall of Famer, Mr. McIntosh.
What are your thoughts around changes to make the procurement policy achieve the goals it was, I think, was intended, which was to create capacity and wealth in communities? That's an opportunity that we could, if we could figure out how to benefit both Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities here in the province.
But we've been studying Indigenous procurement because it's a really important issue, but unfortunately it's because there's a perception out there that some folks have been taking advantage of this, that there are perhaps joint ventures that are not authentic, where misrepresenting their business as Indigenous when it's in fact not. So we've been looking at this process to make sure that it is strengthened, and the best way to do that is ensure that Indigenous associations and leadership are determining who is and who isn't Indigenous, and it's placed in their hands. And so right now that process is undergoing that transformation. So we've got the Indigenous Services Canada. We actually monitor the Indigenous Business Directory itself, and the additional procurement pieces are with PSBC Canada. So that's the other piece that's kind of difficult. Again, those bureaucratic lines that we draw in government sometimes. But we set a target. The federal government set a target of 5% to ensure that all federal contracting, 5% were going to Indigenous businesses who are registered on that business directory. We've actually exceeded that target. We're at 6.25% currently, so that's great. It means that departments are taking on this initiative and seeing the value in supporting Indigenous businesses across the country. But your point about bringing it home here to Fredericton, I think, is very important. We're seeing a lot of those businesses on that registered list as being in the National Capital Region. So we're seeing a lot of Ottawa-based businesses. So first, it's awareness, understanding how important it is to be registered on the Indigenous Business Directory, to get your name out there, to be selected for potentially some of these government contracts. But I think the other piece is around the networking and the partnerships that occur. I see Jedi's in the house, so I also want to shout out their incredible work, because that's what it's about. It's finding those pieces, finding where your business might be well-suited or well-equipped to fill those needs. But about, again, ensuring that the right people are there at the table, and that's going to come through collaboration with Indigenous leadership, because the Government of Canada should not be in the business of determining who is and who isn't Indigenous. It's a very colonial approach. So again, setting those targets are important, but the integrity of that system has to be maintained, or else it's not going to achieve the goals that we've set out for it. So happy to see that 6.25%. Would love to see it go even higher, but again, that we're supporting authentic Indigenous businesses is the key there.
Mr. Babineau.
The IOT program, and I think that's what it's called. And I think most of the businesses don't just see it as a negative thing, and I think there is some positive to it. But with the federal funding that's helping with that program, there doesn't seem to be any wraparound services that are also, you say 2/3 are housed, but there's also 1/3 that aren't, that seem to be contributing to some of the negative effects that we're seeing in our downtown. So just wondering, if the government's going to fund a program like that, why is there no funding for the local businesses or for the community at large to kind of help either get these people into housing or support them, just to make it more, easy for the businesses, I guess, that we're not really feeling as much of the destruction. And again, we know it's not the only problem that's causing everything here, but it is one that's in the downtown, in the main core of our business, and is it the appropriate place for such a facility, I guess, is the other question.
So we do fund different initiatives locally as far as wraparound services, not specifically attached to the business community. So I think that's a very important insight that I'd really like to look into, because that's the other thing I also want to address. There shouldn't be a stigma that businesses don't want to help or don't see this with compassion or through the eyes of humanity. Absolutely, that's what's happening, is people are there to support, but you also have a business to run, and we absolutely understand those challenges. So I think that there is something to be said there about equipping businesses with additional supports and resources to go that extra step to see how you can be a part of that solution. There are, as I said, different initiatives and organizations that are funded who do that work kind of in tandem with the Recovery Center. But it's a lot of perception, I think, as well as what's happening, unfortunately. There are many individuals in our city who are perhaps perpetuating some of these issues, who are in no way connected to the Riverstone Recovery Center as well. Although it has become a place where people know they're going to be treated with respect and dignity, and so some have come to hang out there as well. So it's kind of, it's a snowballing effect of what's happening when you provide a good service. Word's going to get out. And so, unfortunately, that's another challenge that we've had to face. But you're right, it has to be a continuum of care. It's not just about supplying that service at the door and then you're off, to do the rest of your business the rest of the day, and then that's it. So I know the folks that work in that center are also deeply concerned with those issues as well, and they work very collaboratively with other supports in the city to make sure that they are putting those systems in place. As far as the location, really when an organization, applies for funding with the federal government, we have limited control over where those placements are going to happen. There's been lots of discussion, even with the owners and operators, about where best that location should be to serve our community. It has to be accessible, of course, to those who will be, accessing those supports. But those conversations are ongoing, and I know they're very much willing to continue to have that conversation to see how this is going to best work for businesses and for the individuals that they're trying to reach. As I mentioned, some of the statistics I gave you were from 2023. We know since that time those numbers have grown as well, and so even as I've mentioned, we've had some success. We're seeing some of that healing. We're seeing some of that learning. We know the issue is unfortunately also exacerbated, and it's across the country. But Fredericton, it's kind of new and different for us, and it's not something that is easy to explain to our kids. For example, it's not easy to take them to the park where you have to see maybe the sharps are in the community. So this is, there's no simple answer, but absolutely it's about the resourcing. And so additional pieces there, always open to see how the business community can be involved in those conversations. But just know there are significant investments into our local community, into our provincial departments as well for the work that they do. And that collaboration is happening. I have seen a de-siloing in the last couple of years as well, which is very optimistic and hopeful as well, because again, there's no silver bullet approach. And so I'm very proud actually of the program itself. There's 5 locations across the country. They have recorded incredible success for the individuals that access our services. It's just going to look different to a lot of us and where we are in our lives and what we prioritize. And it's just, again, that human approach, that continuum of care, that's what Fredericton is known for, and we're going to keep doing that work. But I will absolutely raise it with specifically our small business minister to see what we can put in terms of really specific investments to go that extra step, to see what else you can do to really be involved on the ground.
Fredericton Lincoln MLA David Kuhn.
We're hearing that CBC is divesting itself of the station up the hill on Regent Street, which is disconcerting on a number of levels. First, they just completed a major renovation there at considerable cost of the station and opened a brand new studio. So from a financial perspective, in terms of managing taxpayers' dollars, that's very disconcerting. But secondly, I worry that it will lead to a further downgrade of CBC's capacity to provide good journalism in our city and our province at a time when we have so much disinformation and misinformation that seems to only be accelerating, and journalism is in its decline. We're losing journalists left, right, and center from different media outlets, and concentration of our newspapers into national ownership and so on and so forth. So can you comment on what's happening with CBC in Fredericton?
I know they are divesting of the building. I mean, it's such an important kind of iconic building for all of us. I remember when I was first elected, I did my first morning interview, but I showed up in person and Terry was quite surprised to see me. So I'll never forget that, and it's absolutely important to us. And journalistic integrity in general should be important to all of us as a foundational pillar of our democracy. So, I mean, I'll mention as well, I am worried about potential cuts to CBC in the future as well, and what that might look like for Canadian broadcasting and journalistic integrity. But also that local journalism component. We're starting to see a different policy shift to ensure that we protect those local voices as well. C-18 was a bill that's also been receiving lots of attention, where we can't share on our social media outlets articles. The idea behind that was to support local Canadian journalists so that they get paid for those services, so that they can't be taken advantage of by the major tech giants like Meta, for example. So there's some unintended consequences there, but that's some of the initiatives that we're trying to do to protect the integrity of that system. This will more and more become a priority, as it should be, as we see the agents of chaos trying to disrupt the information that we have here in Canada. And so for me, the CBC is such an important legacy piece to really presenting, thoughtful, informed, fact-checked information to Canadians. And so I will do everything I can to protect that for sure. But at the same time, we want to make sure, again, that our small news outlets also feel supported. So there's different incentives now coming out with tax credits, with different grants and incentives there. I've actually spoken to some local radio radio voices as well who are really feeling that pinch and worried about losing their ability to communicate and advocate for their community. So this is an important emerging issue right now. But again, it's going to take a lot of us to really make sure that we're loud on this. And again, it is our democracy. It's a fundamental pillar that we should never forget about. So I'll look into the renovations piece at the CBC and as far as the tax-paying dollars, but they are looking to divest that building. We had some plans. We had hoped maybe we could turn it into something really special for our community, but again, it's difficult to unlock those federal lands. So to be continued specifically on that property, but on journalism more broadly, we've got to stand up and protect it and make sure that that integrity piece is there.
Hi, Jenica. You said that there are 5 clinics in Canada, and we thought, or my understanding anyway, that this was a pilot project. I was just wondering, because we're getting a lot of people from all different parts of New Brunswick that are accessing our center, and it's causing issues. So when is the pilot up?
So each year they're able to reapply to the funding pot. So it's currently still accessible. It's the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. It's her purview to continue that funding should she decide in our fall economic statement coming up. So the budgets will really be the big signal to when that money will not be available anymore. There's also a lot of private ventures that will continue to perhaps do that work, even if there wasn't that federal support. And so it's beyond a pilot stage, I would argue at this point, because it is kind of that consistent funding that we're seeing. But every year, again, we'll see with the budget where that's going to be taking us. So fall economic statement, even though we're almost out of the fall, but we've had a motion of privilege. This is kind of insider speak for the House of Commons, has frozen the House of Commons, and so it's been very difficult. We haven't been able to discuss any legislation. So that fall economic statement is delayed, but we will have it, and that will signal very clearly to us the direction that it's heading in the future.
A round of applause, please. Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Paul Mazerow from Gold Sponsor UNB to say a few words.
It really is an honor to be here amongst friends, alumni, members of our business community. Great turnout for a really important event. Certainly the diverse attendance this morning reinforces the point that our collective success as a community is heavily dependent on collaboration. So indeed, we need government. We need all levels of government, local, provincial, federal, our industries, our universities, and indeed our community, all working together to navigate a very complex, challenging, and uncertain future in some ways. So it's great to see such a diverse group this morning to have this conversation. Certainly from the UNB's perspective, our mission in undertaking the work that we do has always been threefold: teaching and learning, research, discovery, and innovation, and public engagement. As an institution that's been around for 235 years, we are committed deeply to working in the public interest and advancing the public good of our community. To that end, we work hard every day to maximize human, social, cultural, and the economic potential of our province. And we've been privileged to watch many of our UNB graduates go on to make a difference, both in the business community and, like our distinguished alumni, Jenica, in politics. So I'm very pleased that UNB and our community has a real champion in this room that takes on initiatives that affect post-secondary education that the federal government can influence, but more broadly about our community and our businesses and the kind of community, whether it's in journalism or whether it's in land usage or dealing with the social challenges and the economic vitality of our region. We have a champion in Jenica, and we're very excited about that.
Thank you all for attending this morning. Wish you a great rest of your day.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
My Uncle Cheney was one of over 150,000 Indigenous children that were taken to residential schools between the 1800s and 1996. My uncle ran away from school wanting to get home to his mom and dad, and sadly he didn't make it and died of exposure. When Gord Downey found out about my late Uncle Cheney's story, he wrote Secret Path, a series of poems that became an album, then a graphic novel, a documentary, and a concert. Gord met my family, and together we formed the Gord Downey and Cheney Winjack Fund. Together, we are sharing Secret Path and other reconciliation resources with Legacy Schools, setting up legacy spaces across Canada, and hosting events like Secret Path Week to inspire all Canadians to engage in reconciliation. Before he left us, Gord asked us all to do something.
You're gonna figure it out.
Will you join us? Together, we can make Canada a better place.
You're watching Rogers TV.
All crew. This is my favorite part. You see that jagged rock? They say it's haunted by mermaids.
To be a yachty, you need to have thick skin. I thought I was doing the right thing.
It's a bit harsh.
You need to stop.
Does anyone know where Steph is? Get him back here, now!
Gary seems to be giving me the attention that I need.
Oh, here we go. The only person who should be crying on this boat is me.
Below Deck Sailing Yacht. All new Mondays at 9 on Bravo or streaming